Today is August 27th, 2023, and this is Major with Roots Research. I was about to say the Roots Report. Man, I missed that podcast. How about you, Patrick? You missed the podcast?
Hell yeah.
Man, I miss it.
It was a nice podcast.
It really was. I don't have anyone to like rant about the stock market news with. My dog just looks at me like I'm
I
an
know.
idiot.
Well, that we have the community live stream.
Thank goodness. And boy, do we have a community live stream for everyone coming up. We're going to talk September. What does that mean for U.S. investors? Plus, of course, we got to look back at this crazy August, right? With the S&P 500 dropping nearly 4% at the time of this recording. And we just had Jackson Hole, so we'll talk about J-Pal as well. Plus, a couple community questions from the free Discord or the premium Discord, which doesn't matter which. Where it doesn't matter where the question comes from, Twitter, we will answer it. And that's what we're here for. And that's not financial advice. We're just a publication company. So, for instance, one of the guys wants to know what happened to the S&P 500 last time the Suez Canal got blocked. Spoiler alert: we have the answers because publications. How are we doing today on this fine morning? I'm gonna turn this fan down.
Not bad, not bad. What was our DD for this month?
That's an excellent question.
I can't remember the ticker. It was so long ago.
Was it Southern Copper?
Was it? Yeah, that sounds right.
I'm just going through our
It was.
Discord
Yeah,
here.
it was something with copper. Was it Southern Copper? Because we switched.
Yeah, ticker SCCO. Sam Charlie Oscar. Southern Copper,
Yeah.
which was owned mostly by Grupo Mexico.
Yeah, it's I think they're a Brazilian copper miner, or like just generally South American.
Well, I mean, they're headquartered in Phoenix, Arizona, but yeah, that's where a lot of
Yeah.
their mines come from, Peru. And safe mines.
Peru.
Yeah, they were awarded an award for safety excellence in 2021.
Yeah, but I mean, how much should they just pay somebody to get that award?
That's a great question. More than the other copper miners, and I think that's important.
Yeah, that means they have a little bit more cash to splash around.
Right? I mean,
Yeah,
hey,
actually, I thought
when
company.
Group of
And
Mexico owns 89% of you, you've got that cash to spend. What were you saying?
yeah, I think it's a pretty good company, and copper is only becoming more important. So I don't think copper's going anywhere anytime soon.
No, it's
And
not.
with and especially when you're worried about maybe potential downturns in the market with September coming up, it's good to look for some stuff that might be a little bit more stable.
Especially, we're only going to have more electronics. Maybe we're not going to have this great housing crash that everyone on CNBC effing predicted last year, right? So copper could be a valuable play. In fact, the company, to paraphrase here from their 10Q, 10K, whatever, all of our DDs cited, the company sees copper playing a vital role in the global shift to clean energy, predicting the current cycle of low prices will be quote unquote short lived. So it's definitely something to look into. If you do look into it, you will notice everyone just missed the $1 quarterly dividend that was payable on the 23rd.
What's $1 out of what's the current share price?
The current share price is sorry, I'm recording everything, so it's a little difficult. $77.79. So a yield, according to Google, of 5.14%.
5%. That's not bad.
Not bad at all.
But speaking of housing crashes, actually, I have a fun little tidbit for you guys. I was on the China subreddit, and they were posting about how, so about Evergrande and how they're well, they initiated laws so that they couldn't like decrease the price of houses so quickly. So then developers, like people trying to sell houses, are now just giving out gold bricks when you buy the house
It's like rebates, kind of.
to yeah, well, to circumvent the
Yeah, that's smart.
law that they can't for cheaper. Yeah.
How much gold does China
So
have?
basically, well, enough to give gold bricks out because it's not the government; it's developers.
Yeah, but where'd they get the gold from? If they can't own, if they you don't own anything in China, you're gonna tell me they own gold?
Yeah, yeah, you can have personal property in China.
Not private property, not right. The
Well,
houses,
you
the
can.
land, you can't own the land. You have to
Yeah,
lease it.
you only ever get like 100-year lease.
Right.
It's like
Is
how it
so?
works.
I'm just wondering: is there a 100-year lease on the things that come out of the land, like gold? Like this gold's yours
Uh,
for 100 years, and then China takes it back.
no, that's yours.
That's yours.
I
Interesting.
got the
Yeah, I
amount
mean
of
it's just like
gold
cash.
per country here. United States has 8,133 tons. Germany has 3,500. Russia has 2,290, and China has 1,948,000 ton. So it's estimated that United States has around double of the three other countries below it.
That we know of, or that we think there is.
That's
Yeah.
true.
A little bit of a Fort Knox conspiracy. It's not really there.
Well, after Germany lost the
It's in
war
Black
in
Rock.
World War II, they had to sell out. Well, all the gold they had was pretty much stolen by America and Russia. So
Some heavy words coming from a non-American. We write the history. We won, and therefore we write the history books. Just because someone gave you a microphone, you respect the rules of history, sir. Just because someone gave you a microphone doesn't mean you get.
Germany stole the gold first, so it's just
I
taking
wasn't
it
gonna.
back.
I wasn't gonna say
It's like
it.
Robin Hood. It's like Robin Hood. Steal
Yeah,
from the rich.
Yeah,
that's
it's all
it.
in Switzerland, isn't it? The German gold.
Yeah, Germany stole from Africa and from France and tried to steal from Austria and Switzerland, but Switzerland managed to hold back.
Like, no,
But
Well,
after the war,
we're not having
I
this.
thought Switzerland was holding the Nazi gold for them.
yeah, they were until I think there's a movie about this where there's a blowing off the bridges and all the tunnels in Switzerland where they are trying to hijack a train with a lot of German gold that they're trying to get out of the country, but it's stopped by I think it's like a James Bond movie just for Switzerland people.
I'd watch that
A
movie.
Swiss James Bond.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a Bond movie.
No, it's not it's like a
It's
Switzerland.
not literally Bond,
Oh,
but it's just like a
it's a spy, like a spy thriller.
Yeah.
While we're
I
talking
think we
about,
have one in Norway as well, coming out this year.
Oh yeah, Norway. I heard there was the Norsk Hydro that produced heavy gas. They were instrumental in
Yeah, that
our nuclear program for the Manhattan Project, and also blocking the Germans' nuclear program.
is true. We have the heavy water
Yeah,
production. It's true.
yeah, pretty
oh,
interesting.
speaking of producing things, India made it to the south pole of the moon, where I believe there is a lot of rich H3, some kind of chemicals, some kind of minerals that can be used for energy.
Yes, they have now successfully sent a rover that will be online for about a month at the south pole of the moon. It's the first time we've ever managed to Well, it's the first time out of 4 times we have sent a rover to the moon, and it's the first time that we ever sent it to the south, where it's the cause for it is basically to check out the ice caps on the South Pole to find out if there is actually something to use for a base. Basically, it's like a test site for hydrogen production on the moon.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's
So
very cool.
That was by
Good job.
India, right?
yeah, that was
Yeah.
in India.
The first time they tried it was last year, and then it failed. But this is the second time.
Russia had tried a week earlier to land on the moon, and they had failed. And just
Well, of course.
for a minute, I was like, how did we make it to the moon in the 69 and they still can't make it to the moon in 2023? And then next week, India land
Well,
on
not
the
to
moon.
mention we made
And
it
I
to
was
the
like, oh, Russia just used potatoes as fuel.
Not to mention we made it to the moon with a live person. Which is
Several
much harder to do.
times. Yeah.
Yeah, than a drone.
Or a dog.
But that's only because India has Bollywood, so they're getting pretty good at now.
So they danced their way to the top.
No, it's a little fake moon landing conspiracy.
You son of a bitch. That was such a good joke, and I'm so mad I didn't get it. I am genuinely upset that I robbed you of. That's really good. That was really good. I'm going to steal that joke. I'm going to write that down.
Okay. So then we also were talking about what is the Suez Canal that's having.
Yeah. Well, I was teasing that before. I want to talk about one more little minor story before, as we're trickling in. Figure we could start at 10:30 here. Did you guys hear about? I'm going to butcher this name. Zhao Yi, the former Xi official from China, who was sentenced to life in jail for Bitcoin mining and bribery. Sorry, illegal Bitcoin mining and bribery.
Oh, because he's in China?
So a Chinese government official has been handed a life imprisonment sentence due to involvement in unauthorized business operations associated with a Bitcoin mining venture worth 2.5 billion Chinese yuan, or $329 million.
Mm-hmm.
He was a former member of the party group.
Yeah, but I'm saying like he was mining Bitcoin
in China, yeah,
which is illegal. Yeah, I was like, how is mining Bitcoin illegal? No, that just you know what that means is that he just pissed off the wrong person.
Yeah, mm-hmm. That's basically it. Like, yeah, you don't have. I heard recently, I haven't fact checked this, but I heard that China has a 2-to-1 camera to person ratio, which just can't be true because that's 2 billion cameras. That's such horseshit, right? But then I was like, but where's that stat coming from? Because I have 3 cameras on my phone, so like, is it CCTV? Because that would be ridiculous. But if it's just like, I mean, we counted up all the cameras in Foxconn for Apple's production next year, and there's 2-to-1. There's 2 billion cameras in production. Like, I'd be like, all right, you statisticians, you got us again.
Yeah, I mean, if you were counting phones in America, I bet it'd be even more than 2-to-1. I mean, people have more than one phone a lot of times. So.
What if you were counting doors or windows? I'm kidding, guys. We're not getting into that. No, we're not. That was it's a throwback to Roots Research. You go check out that infuriating debate if someone cared. Guys, are you ready to hop into this? It is 10:30, which everyone knows that's when the market opens Central Time, so that's probably when we should open.
Well, we like to start a little bit late on
Sunday. Hey,
let people sleep in.
Cheers to everyone. Hey, dude, you know how much of a loser I am? My Yeti has my favorite math equation ingrained into it.
I can't read the math equation.
I know the shine. Yeah, it's too chromy. E to the I pi plus 1 equals 0.
That kind of sounds like a rhyme. E to the I pi.
That's my rapper name. I'm E to the I pi. That's why I'm so skinny, because I'm eating imaginary pie. My flow's not sick, it's a rational guy.
You're on a sick beat for you.
You want a sick beat here coming in from the street. S&P down 3.99. Repeat. That wasn't terrible.
It's fire.
I rhymed repeat and street, guys. Go ahead and give me a like and subscribe down below. I don't even know if this is gonna make it into the video, guys. Let's go ahead and get into it. What a wild August it's been. The S&P 500 at the time of this recording is down 3.99%. It opened at 45.78. We're currently sitting at 44.05. You know what's sitting? My camera.
Down 3.99% from where?
From the start of the month.
Oh, on August.
You want to know why? Let me tell you why. Apple, Microsoft, Tesla, Meta, $625 billion in market cap wiped out from those four. Right? With Apple doing just half of that, almost half, at $314 billion decline this month.
If you were active in the trade chats in our Discord, you would know that was to be expected because the SPY, SPX weekly RSI was at like 73 at the start of the month.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
that RSI is a good indicator.
Yeah, I always use that one. I mean, it's not the only one, right? Obviously, you can look at the RSI and it can remain above 70 for weeks, months.
Introduce stage less NVIDIA, right? Which just reached a new all-time high at $502.66 this week.
Was it a real all-time high, though? I think 520 in free market.
Free market, yes.
And I mean, but then it just opened at like 502.
And then just sold out to like 470.
Which, I don't know if you saw the...
No, can we stop for a second and just pour one out to every guy who like had 510 calls or 505 calls and it opened at 502 and it's selling to 500 and like, all right, just a little market sell off in the morning and it's 595. It's like, all right, we're rebounding though. Like, guys, we were just at 520 and then it's like 580 and you're like, come on, what's happening? It's a 570. Your call that was like $20 is now worth 20 cents and you're like, oh, hold me.
I feel the worst for the people who probably doubled down while it was falling because they're like, the earnings were great, but it didn't matter because they were up 150% on the year.
Right, 0 DTE, average down.
Yeah. I haven't seen that loss porn yet, but I'm sure it's out there.
I'm sure it is. But also for the savvy analysts might have recognized a weird pattern that's developed in August. Catch this. The year before an election year. All right, so if you can follow with me, the August of 2011, 2015, and 2019 all had down months. There's
what was the average down? Do you know?
No, the research doesn't. At least I didn't copy paste it. And the research didn't explain why. If I didn't copy paste it, wasn't interesting enough, right? But I thought what was interesting. Don't take away from this fun fact with a lack of more fun facts or lack of detail.
I was wondering if we knew, like, was this year worse than
why? That's a great question. I'll tell you what, it wasn't worse than last September. That'd be a great segue, but we're not quite there yet. Maybe we'll call that a little tease. But yeah, so what does a $314 billion slump in market cap mean for Apple? Just a minus 10% in share price.
Yeah.
I have a buddy, shout out to my friend, who bought at 192 or right next to the high. Love you, man.
There really are always people like that. I mean, it has to be, right?
Oh, I mean, it's not the worst idea, right? It broke above resistance. Who knew the market was going to stop rallying after 3 straight months?
You always have to wait for that hold. You can't just wait for the break.
I mean,
dude, the retest.
You joke about that and like, oh, like why would you buy into the rally so late, like the May rally or whatever? But like, I mean, you saw how
many people who do.
But you saw how stocks recovered from like last October, right? You're like, the low is in, and most people are like, the low is not in. We haven't seen 3,300 yet on the S&P 500. I might have been one of those people. I don't know, right? But then like it goes up, and you're like, well, I'm not chasing. You're waiting for this pullback. You're like, well, I'm a good trader. I'm not going to chase. And then like 100% later. Well, yeah. But that's what I'm saying. Like, it's hard to know, like, when does the rally stop?
I don't know. I think if RSI is at 72 on the weekly or 75 or whatever it is, you got to start being pretty careful. At least put in a stop loss.
I agree. No, I think that's when you should put in a double down. RSI over 70.
Double down at the top.
No,
Triple down.
That's when you just you hedge with a short position, right? Not financial advice. I'm not publishing that on paper.
Yeah, but before we move on, actually, I had one more thing to add to Nvidia. I don't
Oh.
know if you guys saw the thing about. So they beat earnings by I think it was what $250 billion or something, 200 some billion,
I don't
some
have the
number.
number. I don't have the number in front
There's
of me.
like a 200 number, or is it two? Yeah, I think it was 200 billion. Anyway, but then so what happened is that they got an order from a company that Nvidia actually owns for 200 billion, which got a loan from BlackRock for 200 billion, and
No.
then BlackRock also owns like 183 billion in market cap of
Uh,
Nvidia, and
That's just
so
impressive. That's just impressive.
so yeah,
I
so
have
they so
some.
yeah they beat earnings with like this loan game, this shell game that they're playing, and that's why you always have to be careful
Who
in the
I
market.
cares?
have
As long as
I have some
congressmen are
info on
still
that.
insider
Yeah,
trading,
what's up, Thor?
then like what can you ever
Uh,
stop?
so the BlackRock owns shares in Nvidia,
Yeah.
and Blackstone was the loanee, which
Mhm.
gave them 240 billion for their cloud software program or
Well, the
computer
important
software.
the important part
So
was they didn't give it directly to Nvidia because then they would have had to declare that as like a loss. They gave it to a third party company, which then gave
yeah,
it to Nvidia as like a sale.
so
And so
Blackstone
it
gave it to
looks
BlackRock, which owns Nvidia, and BlackRock bought the software from Nvidia, but it also owns the shares in Nvidia, so it bought it with loan money from Blackstone, so it didn't seem like BlackRock used their own money to pump up the stock. It's pretty fucked up, but
well, no,
I
but
mean,
they
if it
didn't.
works,
I think the important part here is that they didn't give it directly to Nvidia.
yeah.
Blackstone gave a loan to a third party company owned by Nvidia, and then that third party company essentially put in a buy order. Like, so they sold stuff to a different company that they also own. And then that shows up on their books as sales, but it's really a
May
loan
I
from
may
Nvidia.
I
So it's a
try? May I explain
really
this like your five?
kind of like cook in the books, but technically legal.
Can I try to
Uh,
let me try to break this down for the listeners who are still confused. Your kid opens a lemonade stand, and the dad goes out and buys all the lemonade, and then
Yeah,
the kid records record profit.
right.
That's basically what happened.
But more importantly, it's with a loan that the kid now owes the dad, kind of.
All
So
right,
it's
so
not even
the
charity.
dad's an
It's not
asshole
like
banker.
charity. Yeah, yeah.
Isn't this
Yeah,
very
it's not
common
really.
practice for oil companies? I think ExxonMobil and Circle K and Statoil from Norway did this as well, where they pumped up the oil from the ocean. They sold it to their sister companies, which are the gas stations, and they used transportation companies that they also own, and then they just sold it in like a triangle where they sold the oil to their sister companies that bought it and sold it to the transportation companies, and everything was owned by the same group.
Right, but it all shows up as sales rather than
Yeah, so
each
they're
time you're
making
moving it, it's a sale instead of just moving it around.
yeah, they're making like 3 times the profit.
Yeah, so
Mm.
Pretty
my little thing there is that I'm sure there was a lot of people who were like, what, they had record breaking sales, they beat by so much and yada
Right,
yada,
but
but they
it's
beat by the exact amount of this shady book dealing, so you always have to be careful.
cooking those books, which we
Yeah,
know Wall
you
Street
can't look at
loves,
the
or
headline.
public
Yeah.
companies love to do. Speaking of it being harder to move stuff in the Gulf of Mexico, what a transition to this one. Uh, did you guys know that there's a drought affecting the Panama Canal that's threatening 40% of the world's cargo ship traffic, two-thirds of which is products going to and from the United States? Guys, I don't need to tell you what happens, but I mean, we will. We have a community question about the Suez Canal, which we'll be breaking down later, so we can kind of look into this. But I mean, as
Well,
far
I
as
mean,
the
they're related
they,
because
yeah, because
just
it's
to have an
cargo.
idea of how it
Mm-hmm.
might affect the market.
What might happen, right? So exactly. So stick around to that. But 40%, that's crazy. But you know what I was saying before, we're over here fighting tooth and nail with inflation, which is too many dollars chasing too few goods. So the last thing we need is 2/3 of 40% of
Yeah.
the world's cargo not
Stuck.
getting in and out of this country. And
Yeah.
let's be honest,
Even
the way
fewer
America
goods.
is producing, it's mostly ends.
Yeah.
Guys,
We don't produce like anything anymore.
yeah, but that might change. We produce a lot of social media. We produce a lot
lot
of
of bullshit.
a lot of garbage. Yeah, our number one export, Hollywood.
TV
Yeah,
shows.
well, it is reality TV shows now. Which, by the way, shout out to Stars on Mars. What a stupid show that my wife and I have fallen in love with. It's hosted by William Shatner. It's on Fox. It's so dumb, but it's as far as reality TV shows go. Like, if your wife is like, you want to watch more Love Is Blind, or you want to watch like the Real Housewives of Wall Street, which actually, legit, I would subscribe to that show. Recommend this show instead. It's cute. It's fun.
We should start a Real Housewives of Wall Street, and then
Real
it's
House
like,
Husbands.
well, it's like Wolf of Wall Street. Like we're always like banging whores and shit.
Oh, I thought if we're gonna be the Real Housewives, I thought we'd all get like matching Margot Robbie wigs. I was going in the opposite direction of that.
No, I was just saying it would be like terrible. Like being a housewife of a Wall Street guy, you know, they're always like out doing drugs and. Like,
I mean,
at
yeah,
least
but
that's the funny.
you're probably at home doing drugs, right?
Yeah, but committing infidelity as well at the same time.
Not okay, Wall Street. You want to
I think
crash?
the wives are okay with all the millions of dollars.
I've seen the Whatever podcast. I believe they are okay if you're 666 or whatever. I'm not gonna explain that. You can Google it yourself. But yeah, apparently you can just do whatever you want. Guys, before we say goodbye to August, let's recap the highlights. ISM manufacturing PMI for July coming in slightly colder at 46.4 versus an expected 46.8. Jolt's job openings a little cooler again at 9.58 million versus 9.61 million. Initial jobless claims flat at 227,000. Service PMI is cold just by 0.1% at 52.3% versus an expected 52.4. Average hourly earnings important. Why? The Fed watches it and for inflation. Go out there and make that money. It's not your fault, guys. Coming in a little, well, hot at 0.4% versus an expected 0.3. Not the number you want to see if you're rooting for inflation to die off. However, non-farm payrolls coming in at 187,000. It's a little cold versus the 200,000 expected. Isn't the worst number ever. However, we do have one slight issue here. I mean, slight issue for the Fed. This is great for America, and that's the unemployment rate. Coming in at 3.5% versus an expected 3.6%. For the listeners at home who aren't part of the Discord, just a reminder, the Fed and the White House are both expecting, I believe, a four handle on unemployment here by the end of the year and into the first quarter of next year. So something to keep an eye on. Just make sure if you like your boss, buy him a cup of coffee. You know, pay for it. Because that might be the investment of a lifetime. That's not investment advice. That'd be great if the SEC charged me for that. You gave investment advice of buying your boss a coffee.
It didn't work out for one employee.
No. CPI, right? It was a little was flat or a little soft, right, year over year. But as Thor has talked about several times before on the live stream, the numbers for inflation are crap. Go outside, buy some groceries, and you tell me how inflation's doing. What's coming up for the rest of August? August 29th, we have the Jolt's job openings. August 30th, we have GDP revisions, pending home sales, and crude oil inventories. And then on the 31st, PCE price index and initial jobless claims to wrap up the month of August 2023.
I think the biggest takeaway from the FOMC meeting, personally, was the bull market that we just had. First off, it seems fake as hell. Like, even with Wall Street coming out and saying, what was it, that a lot of it was driven by gamma hedging by the banks who are buying up stuff so that they have more shares and like some other stuff. But also with it burning hot, Jerome Powell came out and I think said 2 more hikes by the end of the year. So that means like 1 hike in November and 1 hike in December. And
Yeah.
so that's a no bueno for the market. They do
The
not like hikes.
the futures market at the time of recording, so that would be for at the close of August 25th, pricing a 20% chance of a Fed hike in September, but a better than 50% chance of a at least one rate hike by the end of policy year. So by the end of the year, which would be either November or December, like you were saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Key events to look for in September that we'll be watching. You should be watching. We know Jerome Powell, Doctor, Mr. Jerome Powell. See a doctor? Mr. Jerome Powell. Oh, Daddy. I always call him Daddy Powell.
Daddy Powell.
Daddy Powell, yeah. Jay Powell. He's going to be watching CPI coming out September 13th, as well as PPI on the 14th, retail sales and core retail sales as well. And then when's that FOMC decision? September 20th, baby. Go ahead and mark your calendar. Unless you're listening to this while you're driving. In that case, thanks for listening, and don't text while driving.
Wake me up when September ends.
I mean, pretty much. But this might be different. We might be seeing a sell-off in August as investors in Wall Street prepare for September. Oh, nice little rhyme there, right? Last September, like I was saying before, we saw discussed. Oh, maybe I didn't. Where are my notes?
9%.
9%, down 9% last September, 9.34. So maybe people are selling off in August to go ahead and get that position ready, so it's not as painful for September. So we might, this isn't financial advice, but we might be seeing a little bit less severe of a sell-off this September year over year. That's right, guys. You heard it here first on Roots Research. We might see less than a 9% sell-off in September.
Speaking of inflation with the FOMC meeting, has Thor done his little rant about it on live air yet?
Yes. But my audio was not captured. Hold on, my audio wasn't captured. So actually, Thor, if you want to explain to the listeners why the CPI numbers we just brushed over, because they're all horseshit, I'll let you take it away.
All right. In 2019 to 2021, the BLS, the ones that are estimating the CPI levels, they have been using a formula that has been 2 years prior. So if the numbers are, let's say, 2.5 for a month or for the year, it's taken from the last 2 years. In just right before the first sell-off in the market, and when inflation were soaring through the roof, they said, okay, we got to do something with this. The Fed said, okay, we got to change some formulas here. So they changed it from 2 years to 1 year. And since 2022 was the highest year we had on inflation prints, where we had 7.5 to 9.1% for around 8 to 9 months. We have been comparing it for the whole of 2023. We have been comparing it to the max ratio, like the max percentage of that print. So since the highest CPI percentage was in July in 2022, we are now seeing the first descending percentage. So we went from 9.1% in July, and we saw in August, 11th of August, 2 weeks ago, we saw the first descending percentage, which was around, I think was 8.1 or 8.5. So then we suddenly see that the uptick of inflation suddenly comes back, because we're not comparing it to an ascending line of inflation. We're comparing it to a descending line. So the it's like comparing it to
8% on top of the already like 8% the year before.
yeah. So what they're doing actually, they're saying that 100% is 9.1%, and everything below that is positive. But
Yeah,
now they're
so
saying the new 100% is now 8.1%. And for the next month, which is the 13th of September, they will say that the new comparison is 7.7%. So if the inflation is the same as it was last year in September, like the prices are exactly the same, inflation will still tick up because we're comparing it to a lower print. So if the prices have been going up like they have for the last, I think they're month over month, we had upticks almost every month. I think it's 11 months in a row we had upticks on the monthly, but the yearly has gone down. So let's say the month prints are 0.2%, 0.2% every month. But since we have been comparing it to a higher print for like the last 12 months now, we will suddenly see very, very quick uptick of the of this next like 6 months on the CPI prints, because once it sells from like 8 to 9% down to the 4 or 5%, it will suddenly double. So September, November, December, January, February, March, the coming months here now will be very, very higher, because the neutral level of the comparison will be around 4.5 to 5%, which then will send the inflation print almost doubled.
right.
Trade on
That's
that
the
how you
easiest
will.
way I can explain
Yeah.
that. If I think I have
Basically,
like
they're cooking the books. It's higher than it seems in
yeah,
comparison
because
to previous years. Or
when you
like
do 1 year, you're basically when you're doing statistics, you want to have a larger you want to have the most data for it as
Right.
possible, so you have a great average. Right now they have like they have shorted it so much that it's basically like politics when you're doing like a test run for voting in the like, are you going to you ask you call people on your phone and you ask them who you're going to vote for, and they usually say I'm going to vote Republican or Democratic, and then in the they only ask like 100 people, and then they say it's 70% chance for Republicans winning, and they only called people from ages of 55 to 95, and it's only
Right.
100 people. So it's not cooking the books, but it's less data they're comparing it to, which makes it a little bit iffy.
Makes it less valuable, right, or less
It's
accurate, a less accurate
it's
representation with less data.
I think the reason why they did this was because they were afraid of a domino effect in the market if we compared it to the 2020 inflation, because inflation in 2020 was very low.
right.
It didn't start going
Well, it was
straight
like
up.
lowest for a second. It was gonna be like negative almost.
Yeah, so
Things
they
almost
didn't
got
start.
cheaper
Down
for a
to,
second.
yeah, yeah. Which
I
negative
think
inflation just like
I think it
it's crazy.
started going up really, really fast was in 2021 around April. So if they compare it to the last 2 years, it would have been worse, and the sell-off that we saw in S&P around 3,600 would have been a lot larger. So the prices of everything right now is a lot. It's not less than it was 6 months ago. It's actually more.
Too damn high.
But
Hmm.
but since they're like comparing it to, it's the comparison. It's so it's like it's basically cooking the books. Yeah,
It
you're
is.
right.
It
It's
is.
cooking the
It's cooking the
books.
books. I was waiting for you
Well,
to. I
China,
was waiting for you to come around to that. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
They're
pretty sure
cooking. They're
China
cooking the
did it on
books.
purpose. You know, he
Well,
wants to get out of the recovery as quickly as possible. So try to make the numbers look better, so people are less panicked.
I mean, imagine being like the first Fed to ever pull off a soft landing, right? Like you're gonna go down
they?
in the history books. We'll find out, right? I mean, it's easier when you cook the books. But speaking of Jay Powell, you talked about him at the FOMC. I want to take a second to talk a little bit about Jackson Hole. All right, pretty standard by the book stuff. Jay Powell said that the Federal Reserve may need to raise interest rates further to cool still too high inflation, right? Like I said, same old boilerplate stuff. But I wanted to highlight to the viewers and the listeners at home. Again, thanks for tuning in. And I quote, signs that the economy may not be cooling as expected include a especially robust consumer spending and a possibly rebounding housing sector. All right. So I want to keep that especially robust consumer spending in mind as we look forward, as we dive a little bit deeper into the consumer spending. Can we do that for a second? Do you guys mind?
Yeah,
Because
let's go for it.
August and September, crazy couple months for consumer spending. In August, the U.S. credit card debt topped $1 trillion for the first time ever. This brought credit card delinquencies to an 11-year high. I'll say that again. So, this brought credit card delinquencies to an 11-year high, and this all comes while credit card interest rates are at an all-time high at an average of 24.37% according to LendingTree. Let's shake up the Jenga stack a little bit more, Patrick, if we can. The federal student loan payments are returning, right? We have interest payments starting back up September 1st, with payments starting up in October for the first time in over 3 years. How do you think the average American with student debt is going to be able to handle this returning expense? Like, we all know people have a hard time budgeting, spending less or cutting back. Like, these are just popular American consumer stereotypes. But this could have a real impact on the dollars that Americans spend on goods and services. A recent survey by Credit Karma reported that over half of borrowers, at 56%, will be, quote unquote, forced to choose between making their loan payments and covering necessities like rent and groceries. Well, there goes your new Apple headset.
Especially with all the inflation, where it's so much more.
So much more.
Yeah, if the wages don't increase significantly quickly,
yep,
we're gonna have some rioting.
As
be a tumultuous time.
We've talked about in the Discord before, but I've seen this floating around Twitter or social media, right? But when you compare at the height of the Great Depression, and you look at taxable income the average American taxable income adjusted for inflation, it was about 30% higher than the average American taxable income is today. Right? So, the average American's making less now than they were during the Great Depression. I heard a new phrase, silent depression, going around. So, watch out for that hashtag, right? So much for silent quitting. We might actually be in a silent depression. Now, of course, Patrick, this makes sense that as you make less money, this percentage gets bigger, right? So if you're looking at households specifically under $50,000, that 56% increases to 68%. right? So nearly
8% what?
68% of borrowers. So nearly 2/3 of households with federal student loan debt under 50,000. 2/3 of households with income under $50,000 who have federal student loan debts say that they're going to be forced to choose between making loan payments and covering necessities like rent and groceries. Nearly 2/3 of people
I know
under.
which one I would choose.
Yeah, yeah, me too. Right.
But
So,
I also wanted to point out one of the reasons that might be about the difference between the Great Depression and now is partially because of certain social uh, safety nets,
avocado
which
toast. Oh, Medicare.
yeah, well, I mean, there's like more food benefits and other social safety, medical coverage for people who are poor. So actually, like,
Right.
I think I can't remember the exact percentage, but there's a lot of, for instance, Walmart employees who are still they're fully employed, but they're still living under the poverty line.
Yeah.
So they also get food stamps and
Mm-hmm.
stuff, which is
So
I don't know, in my
let me
opinion, fucked up
let
because
me
the
translate that. That's
minimum wage
American
should at least get
taxpayers.
you,
Yeah, that's American
yeah, should
taxpayers
at least get you
subsidizing
above.
corporate profits.
Right.
Walmart doesn't pay their employees enough money to have a livable wage, right? And
Yeah,
if
they're
they
in
pay their
poverty.
employees less, they'll make more money for the shareholders and for the board, right? Everyone understands that. If you're listening to this, you understand how that works. So if you working at Walmart, you make 40 hours a week, and Walmart for corporate greed doesn't pay you enough money, you then get to apply for food stamps or whatever, and God bless you for being American. You need that. You're working hard. You're trying to fulfill the American dream, and you're just getting shafted. So you need some help from the government. You need some help from the taxpayers, right? But
Well,
that's the taxpayer literally subsidizing corporate greed.
right. And so that's exactly why you need to raise the minimum wage to a point where if you're working 40 hours a week or fully employed, you're not on food stamps. But we haven't raised the minimum wage basically since like the 90s.
Well, here's my concern,
So it
right?
was
Not to a
like
substantial
what?
degree.
It was like yeah, it was like $6 in the 90s or
Five
something,
seventy,
and now
575. I remember that
yeah.
paycheck.
And
But
then and
here's
now it's $7, and I think we all can tell that prices have definitely gone up more than that.
here's my concern is that if we just raise the minimum wage price, everyone says this, right? If you raise the minimum wage, they're just gonna pass the prices along to the consumer, right? If I have to pay everyone $2 more, I'm just gonna charge everyone 50 cents, $2, whatever the math is, right? To get my $2 back to make up that profit margin. And if I was a corporate greedy motherfucker, which I would be if I was on a board, I would then actually be like, oh hey, since we have the headline, we have to raise prices because the federal government's telling us to raise, right? We'll just, like, if we have to raise prices 25%, we'll raise it 30% and we'll just sneak that 5% into the margin, right? That's just what any good board member would do. So
Well,
that's my concern. How about this, though? Why is everything so gosh damn expensive, right? If you look, I was talking to Tom the other day about this from the Roots report, right? A Big Mac used to be $1, a McChicken used to be $1. That used to be $2 with tax, like $2.27, whatever. Okay, now it costs him $17. And if you look at the stock market chart of MCD of McDonald's from
mhm,
the time when they had a dollar cent or the dollar menu, like 2007, 2008,
right.
and it was like 70, and then you just look now and it's just straight up, it's skyrocketed.
Well,
And
that's
that's
the thing.
because the price
They're
of
gonna raise prices no matter what. They're always gonna raise
well, that's
prices.
what I'm well, yes.
And
So
the other
that's
thing is that everything has a certain amount of elasticity in the market. Like almost always they don't recoup the entire cost if like there's difference of prices. Like so if it goes up 25%, they might split that with the customer and raise stuff, 10%.
mm,
It's
last
true.
year.
The
Last year, I
only
would differ. I would
the
beg.
only
Last year, I would
no,
beg to
because
differ.
the only way you can do it if it's uh is if it's completely inelastic or completely elastic, which means it's like a necessary good. Like gasoline
Okay, I was
is
gonna quote the
pretty
yeah, that was gonna be my
it's
counterexample.
pretty non-elastic because most people use it to get to and from work. So if gasoline's $5 a gallon, you're gonna pay five
You're
dollars a
gonna pay
gallon because you have
$5.
to go to work. It might change a little bit because you might not go, on a road trip, or you might not go for a longer drive or something
Right.
and pick places that are closer to you, whatever. But it's pretty, I think, inelastic.
I understand in theory, but
But
good.
and that's how it works. And also, it depends more upon like if you're closer to the minimum wage, it'll your wage will also go up proportionally.
No,
Yeah, it
that
hurts the
happened to
top
me.
better.
I was working a job and they increased the federal minimum wage, and I looked over my boss, and I was like making like $2 more at the time, right? And I looked over my boss, so I get that, I get an extra 75 cents too, right? And he just laughed at me and walked away. So again, I
Well,
understand in theory,
you gotta argue for that. You know,
well, I did. I just didn't have any leverage
I argue
as an American.
every time it comes up because of inflation. I'm like, hey, Steph, I'm getting paid less.
Oh,
You're paying me less now, and I need to get paid more.
I had a historic argument with my boss at the London Stock Exchange. I'm not gonna call it his name. I'm not gonna do the man dirty like that. But he is the head of the index, and he's head of the American Index whole department, and the man doesn't understand how basic math works. We were talking about, should this job deserve a raise? And he was like, "All right, well, what about and you've been working this job for 40 years? Do you think you should be making $100,000?" And I was like, "Yes." And he was like, "Why?" And I like, dude, I was so flustered. I had to just like excuse myself from the conversation, and then I did what anyone with a math degree did. I shoved numbers down his throat until he felt stupid, like an idiot. And like I was like pointing out, like, you want to keep the salary around the same, but look at, like, if you look at inflation over the next 40 years, then yeah, you're basically making less than minimum wage. Meanwhile, you're working literally billions of dollars a day for the London stock. He was just so dumb. Uh, that's what corporate greed will do. I agree. You have to argue for everything.
Yeah, people are just dumb. I think is the real takeaway here.
Yeah.
So
Oh, can we talk? No, yes. Rant aside, can we talk about dumb as well? Yeah, this is a good segue into dumb. We talked about how 56% of borrowers, over half, are going to be forced to make a choice, and we knew that number would go up to as your household income goes down, right? So it's 68% at 50,000. But would you believe it if I told you at $100,000 that number is 45%?
Living paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah, would be forced to choose between a loan payment or rent or groceries.
Well, so here's the thing about that is that people who make more money also
Spend more money.
That's what
years.
ends up
Yeah,
happening. And so the thing about having a loan that you didn't have for 2 years suddenly come back is
yeah.
that a lot of people don't budget for that.
That's what I'm
And
saying.
so,
And
yeah.
we hate cutting back as Americans do. We don't touch my lifestyle. Don't touch my avocado toast, which I can make that joke because I've never had avocado toast. I've been told it's delicious. I'll never pay $10 for a slice of bread. That's a zero DTE option I could be buying. But let's wrap this up with some fun facts about September, and then we'll get into some community questions. Does that sound good, Patrick?
Yep, sounds good.
All right. For September, did you know since 1950, the Dow Jones Industrial Average has declined a whopping 0.8%? Like, I think this September is a little overhyped. Like, last year was pretty rough at 9.34%, but on average, the S&P only drops 0.5%. Not even worth shorting, in my opinion. Although some sources do cite an average decline of 0.7%. Still, not that big of a deal.
Yeah, we do that on the daily now.
Right, pretty much. It is important to note that the September effect is not limited to the U.S. stocks, but also worldwide. So you might want to keep your eye on maybe China stocks as well, if the September effect has.
We went over this in the live part, right?
No, we didn't. I dropped the.
Crashing?
I dropped the link. Like, they've got a new trade tax stamp. Evergrande filed for bankruptcy.
People are passing out bars of gold to sell
Xi
houses.
Jinping staying as a guest in my Airbnb. So, like, things are getting a little crazy over in China.
Yeah.
Let's move on to crypto news. Speaking of crazy, the Biden administration unveils new crypto tax reporting rules. Cryptocurrency brokers, including exchanges and payment processors, would have to report new information on user sales and exchange of digital assets to the IRS under a new proposed U.S. Treasury Department rule published on August 25th. It is important to note that the Treasury Department and the IRS are accepting feedback on the proposal until October 30th, and they will be holding public hearings on the proposal November 7th and 8th. So, all my crypto bros out there, mark your calendar. The proposed new tax reporting form is called Form 1099-DA and is meant to help taxpayers determine if they owe taxes and would help crypto users avoid having to make complicated calculations to determine their gains, according to the Treasury Department. The new requirement stems from the $1 trillion 2021 Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, which included a provision that aimed to increase tax reporting requirements for digital asset brokers. It instructs the IRS to define what firms qualified as crypto brokers and provide forms and instructions for reporting. A couple more things here.
More regulation.
More regulation. Yeah. Extended reporting requirements for certain cash transactions of more than $2,000 in digital assets. If this bill is passed, it's estimated that the new rules could bring in close to $28 billion in a decade. A decade.
You mean just from taxes?
Just from taxes. $28 billion from
What is that? 2 hours in Iraq?
That's that's buying the vowels in Ukraine. The IRS currently requires crypto users to report on their tax returns many digital asset activities, including trading cryptocurrencies, regardless of whether the transaction resulted in a gain. Users are required to make those calculations themselves, and the platform on which digital assets trades do not give the IRS that information. Cool. Yeah. So more regulation, more forms for you to mess up on your taxes, more opportunities for the government to audit you.
Fucking pain in the ass. I really hate how we do our taxes.
It really should be it should be a sin.
Be
That'd be great if the Pope came out and just like what H&R Block did with lobbying in Congress in the 90s is a sin. That would be fantastic. But yeah, you know what else is blocked up? The Suez Canal, or at least it was back in March.
Is it Suez or Panama?
Oh, so the Panama Canal is on the verge of causing causing a blockage.
Then we're looking back at the Suez Canal.
Right. So
which actually I looked up had another boat crash.
Yes, quite recently. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't as epic.
4 days ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, this one we're talking about. This one took place on a beautiful March 23rd, 2021 day. I have no idea if it was beautiful or not. But it was blocked by 6 days by the ship Ever Given, as in like it was ever given a chance to get through that because it's so fat. The first joke I had was way more inappropriate, so I had to pivot. Anyway, that's what. But so what happened? All right, 6 days the Suez Canal was blocked. 6 days resulted in 369 ships, or an estimated $9.6 billion worth of trade in U.S. dollars. But it is important to note that the S&P 500 increased 1.34% over the week.
Really?
Yeah. So the block started March 23rd, and the morning and the S&P 500 opened March 22nd with 39.16.48.
Why do I remember that being worse?
Yeah, I remember it being a lot worse.
Did you see the following week?
Also green.
Also green.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Ships were allowed to resume trading on March 29th, and the S&P opened at 39.69 on March 29th.
Nice.
So, yeah. So, 1.64% increase. So, guys, I don't know if this is the trade of all trades to YOLO in. I don't think we're going to be having this problem here. It will be interesting to see
Well, I will say
hurricane season.
low water levels, I think, are harder to fix than unblocking a ship.
You say that like we couldn't just nuke a couple of icebergs.
Could you imagine what's our solution? That's it. Nuke the iceberg.
Oh, people like that would just atomize the water. What we need is actually a team of flamethrowers, flamethrower guys, and then like just Command and Conquer. You got the flamethrower guys just coming, just melting. Who would I would definitely get Elon for that, right? You would use Tesla flamethrowers. They would drive cyber trucks, and they would get there on SpaceX rockets. How cool would that be? Just a SpaceX rocket just drops off a cyber truck, and then you're just driving around with a flame truck. I mean, Netflix, hit me up. I have found your next action movie, and yes, it does star Elon Musk. He's not running for office. He could be the next Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's in California. I see a political career ahead for the Musker.
I think he'd probably do Texas before he'd do California.
Can you imagine what X, the app formerly known as Twitter, would look like if Elon Musk was running for president? Just every other ad would be a meme for him.
Well, he can't sell the ad space, so.
Oh, that's a good. I don't think he cares about money. I mean, he definitely needs X to. Yeah. Yeah, he cares about money like the way a rich person cares about money. He cares about it when it's out, when it runs out. But up until look, bro, you don't overpay for Twitter that. You don't just spend $52 billion on Twitter and be like, no, I care about the value of $1. Don't give me that story. Don't give me that story.
He ended up spending, what was it, 24 million or?
It's billion. It was definitely the B. It was
24 something just because he wanted to put it that 6.
No, the 420 joke. The 420 joke. 20 cents. It was 260 million dollars. Yeah, dude. Hundreds of millions of dollars for a 420 joke. My hero. Or was it a 69 joke? I can't remember. The man's a legend either way. As soon as that company went private, I just threw it out of my head. Public companies only. Speaking of public, you will be able to find this live stream on the YouTube. We will drop links for our Twitter and our Discord. Free Discord. We also have a premium Discord. We'll drop in the links below. If you have any questions, shoot them to us. Put them in the YouTube. Put them in the Twitter. Put them on. Come say hi in the Discord. Have a live conversation with one of us. We do have a technical analyst. He's an excellent chartist, but he's also a family man. He's a little busy today. We miss you, Joe. Hope you're doing well. Patrick, thanks for joining us today. How do you feel heading into September?
Well, the TA charts that we've been going over in the chats, it seems pretty bearish. But we'll see. I mean,
we'll see.
You always got to be able to pivot.
Hey, maybe most of the, I'm telling you, minus 9% is pretty scary. And if everyone knows, if everyone's thinking September's going to be a sell-off, then we're selling early in September. If I know the market like I think I know the market, we might just see the strongest September ever. Like, I'm just kidding. That's such a YouTube way to end the video. Like and subscribe. Make sure to follow along. Let us know what you're trading. We do not offer financial advice. This is a shit show for infotainment. That's right, baby. Patrick, thanks for joining us. Thor, thanks so much. We appreciate your analysis earlier. Have a great September, and we'll see you in the Discord. Bye, guys.